Hello, good people of YouTube. My name is Ryan Summerfield, and thank you so much for joining me back on the channel. Today, in this video, we are going to be talking about my top 10 favorite items that I've picked and purchased for this OB trailer build, which we've got coming up. Now, if you don't know, I'm working on a rather large OB trailer for a client here in Australia. It is a 4K capable trailer. It is going to be actually a lot of fun to build and actually operate as well once it's on the road. Now, I'm still waiting the actual trailer, so I was hoping by now I would actually be giving you a tour of the trailer itself and some of the plans I have to actually fit that out. But alas, it is currently in the ocean somewhere, floating on its way to our little island. So, in the meantime, I wanted to give you a list of the top 10 things which I have chosen for this trailer. Now, some of these things may seem a little obvious, some things may seem a little obscure, but there's a lot of little hidden features in some of these items which may actually come handy to you, and which are some of the reasons why I've purchased these items myself. I am always trying to find cost-effective ways of doing things which should be costing a lot more. I'm not saying that this trailer is a cheap build by any means, but for what it can do, it is quite affordable. So let's check it out. Here's my top 10 items. Now, first up on the list is the ADA XDIP. Now, I love these things because these are a IP-based KVM system. So these will run independently. There's no brain required. These will all just talk to each other on your local network. So the idea behind this is we're going to have a bunch of computers sitting inside the trailer, which can then be accessed from anywhere. So we will have a bunch of stations around the trailer. We'll have like the tech position, we'll have the producer, director, audio. These will all have user stations, which will have a monitor and one of these as a receiver. Now, the idea being that they can actually connect to any computer on the network, so you don't actually have to physically get up and move to another computer to do anything. So all the computers will sit in the rack, sit on UPSs, and they will be all happy, good to go. Now, these things are also PoE. So one idea is that we have a bunch of stage boxes with PoE switches. So if you want someone to sit on the stage and say run a teleprompter or run something that is useful elsewhere, these can go anywhere. So you can set up a computer with literally just one of these, a keyboard, a monitor, and a mouse, and you're good to go. You can obviously lock them down so you can have different places can only access certain things, but it's infinitely flexible. These things are super awesome, fully IP based, and could be quite handy for your next build. Item number 2 is the Blackmagic Terranex Mini SDI to HDMI 12G. Now, the trailer we're building is only rated for 6G. Well, I've only spec'd it out to be 6G, so why do I have a 12G converter, especially since these things are not particularly cheap? Well, what it does have is the ability to output timecode from the SDI input signal. So literally all I'm doing with this thing is getting the timecode from the constellation, which unfortunately does not have a timecode input. So the timecode on the trailer is going to be sourced from the constellation. But what this does is gives me an analog timecode output, which I can then plug into my audio console, which then can route timecode wherever it needs to go, into recorders, into other different places where it's needed. So literally, the reason I'm using this guy is purely for a SDI to timecode conversion. It's a bit of an odd package for it to work in, but it does work. So that is number 2 on the list. Now, number 3 is the GreenGo Intercom system. Now, I absolutely love this intercom system. I've been using it a bunch lately, and for what you get for the price is actually really, really impressive. Now, don't get me wrong, it is not a cheap system. It is not, like, there are definitely cheaper intercom systems out there in the market, but for a fully out-of-the-box, fully matrix intercom system, you just can't beat it. In terms of price and performance, this thing is amazing. Now, these things, just like the ADA system, is a fully IP-based system. There is no brain. So we've got a mixture of these rack units, which are, actually, they're all 32 channels. They can all accept up to 32 channels into them. So we've got the rack system here. We've got a bunch of wireless belt packs. We have a bunch of wired belt packs, as well as a quad 4-wire interface to be able to get audio in and out of it. Now, there's some really fun things coming up in the new version 5 firmware as well. They're actually upping the audio quality to 48K. And I've done some comparisons with that from what it was to what it is now. And what it was is actually quite good, but now it's just gorgeous. Super impressive system. These are all customizable on the unit itself. So if you want to, you can actually go in on the belt pack and pull up any user that is on the network, which is really, really cool. Now, there is no brain. There is no limit to the amount of items you can do. So we were looking at a Riedel system, which would have an artist frame and talking with Bolero and all these different kinds of things. And it's a great system, but you are limited by the actual central brain to how big you can set up your system. And these are essentially infinite. You can just keep adding them on. It's fully IP based, so you can just set it up as DHCP, chuck it on the network. It'll pop up in your software, add a new user, configure it, and you're good to go. So these things are super great. Now, we've also got the Quad 4Y interface. So what we're going to be planning on doing with that is a few things. Now, we've got a duplex radio transmit receiver. So people on walkie-talkies are able to listen in half duplex mode, so they can listen to the director at all times. So we can pipe that through the comms. We can also wire these into the constellation itself. So if you've got a camera that hasn't got a wired wireless belt pack, you can just plug your headphones straight into the camera and you better get full intercom from that, as well as talk to people, say on Zoom or on that. So we're going to have a couple of feeds going into the audio console. So we'll be able to actually talk to people on those audio consoles too. Now, these also all have GPIOs, 2 channels in and out, so you can set up foot pedals. And what we're also planning on doing is actually getting a couple of channels wired into Companion. So you can set up a few buttons so that you can cue whatever you want out of Companion, which is going to be super awesome. So really flexible. Actually, the other thing too is that these stations also have XLR in and out. So if you want to plug these into a speaker, if you're sitting on a station somewhere, you just want to have a speaker open, you can do that. In theory, you can actually just output timecode from one of these to somewhere out in the field. Possibilities are endless, but I really love this system, and I think it's going to be great for what we need to do. Now, number 4, we have none other than the Hyperdeck HD Studio Plus. Now, any regular viewers in the channel will know that I love my Hyperdecks. These things are awesome. So I'll give you a couple of rundowns on why I chose this and some of the use cases I'll have for it. So this can record up to 4K 30, which is within our spec, which is awesome. It can also play that out. Now, these do have SDI, dual SDI out, so you can do a alpha channel as well as so I can do a fill-in key. So I do a lot of playouts of overlays, overlay graphics with lower thirds, animations, bits and pieces. So playbacks on these are awesome. The other thing I do have as well is gigabit FTP out of the Ethernet port. So we do have a NAS in the trailer itself. Now, one thing we all hate when it comes to any production is trying to data wrangle at the end of the day. But what's really awesome is that I'll be able to jump into the NAS itself, load up all 6 of these drives if I'm recording on all 6, for example, and I can get full speed access from each of these onto the NAS itself, because I've got 10 gig pipe going into the NAS, and these all have gigabit going into the network switch. So I can copy all of these out at 100 megaseconds straight to the NAS without having to touch any SD cards at all. I can also use FTP to load files onto this for playback. So I literally can just have this sitting anywhere I want. The SD cards can stay in there, don't have to worry about it, and these will be good to go. And I use Companion to fire off videos as well as recordings and bits and pieces. Absolutely love it. I couldn't not add this to the list. At number 5, we have the OWC Mercury Helios 3S paired with a Decklink 8K Pro. Now, these are super handy to have. They allow you to have 4 feeds of up to 4K SDI in and outs of your machine. Now, this runs on Thunderbolt 3, so the plan is to have this hooked up to a Mac Mini to be able to pipe into, say, OBS, getting NDI signal converted out of Teams, for example. The possibilities are endless, but this is a super handy kit. If you're only doing HD, for example, you can also look at the Decklink Duo 2, which I personally have one of them as well for this style of thing. But this as a portable kit or as a permanent kit is super handy. Plug it into your laptop with Thunderbolt 3 and you get a bunch of feeds in and out. Really flexible, absolutely love it. Now, at number 6, we have the Allen Heath DLive DM0. So this is the audio brain of our trailer. It is a really powerful audio console, infinitely flexible, a lot of awesome bits and pieces. So to give you an idea of what our plan is, so as you can see here, we have a Dante 128 in and out card. So all of our audio is basically running over Dante throughout the trailer. We also have the MADI card. So what that allows us to do is get MADI feeds from the constellation, which will give us up to 30 video channels worth of up to 4 channels of audio from each of those inputs. This is awesome. This is super awesome. So what it allows us to do is, for example, our Hyperdecks, if we're doing playbacks, that will come in an SDI feed. We can grab audio straight from that, straight into the audio console. Our Zoom machines, anything like that, that can come straight off the the MADI and go straight into the console as well. Super awesome. We can also send MADI straight into the console for embedding, ready for output on the video too. Really awesome console. The specs of this thing, you can do 128 channels worth of processing. It is, I think, a 64 outputs as well. And you can set these up as however you like. You can set up uppers, all matrices, groups, auxes, master buses. You can set it up however you want. So it's really, really flexible. We have 2 DT168 boxes, which are Dante stage boxes from Allen and Heath. So they have 16 inputs and 8 outputs. We also have the DX012, which is a 12-channel output box, and it uses the DX. So that's going to be, it's not going to be on Dante, but it will be patched into the console. So what that will allow us to do is actually have 8 AES outputs. So the plan with that is to go into 2 audio to SDI converters, which will allow us to embed up to, if you put them together, up to 16 channels worth of audio. The idea being that when we're recording a show, we can embed a whole bunch of different channels onto the SDI feed for the editor, so they have a bunch of flexibility. If we wanted to record every channel out of Dante, we can go straight into a machine with a Dante virtual sound card, and we can record up to 64 channels doing that. So super flexible. Absolutely love this device. We've also paired it with the C3500 as the surface of choice. But it's, yeah, great console. Absolutely love it. Now, number 7, while we're talking about audio, we have the Dante AVIO adapters. Now, I have a bunch of different versions here. We've got the USB 2 channel with USB-C output. We have the USB 2 channel with USB-A. I have the analog 2-channel analog input and the 2-channel analog output. Now, these things are super awesome just to deploy anywhere you need to go. Classic example will be you've got a laptop and you want to grab audio to and from it. Boom, USB into that, just uses no drivers needed, and then you've got this available on your Dante network to pipe wherever you want. So classic example would be for go with some music, or if you've got a Zoom computer which you want to send specific audio to it and from it, you can do that through this. So I've got the USB-C and the USB-A version depending on the machine. Now we've also got the analog inputs. So say you've got a DJ on set and you just want to grab some audio from them. Super easy, you can grab that from that. Or if you've got, say, you're at a festival and you want to grab a front of house mix, you can just run an Ethernet to front of house, play that in the back of your console, and you've got a feed back there. We've also got the output, so say you want to set up some speakers for a client to listen in another room, boom, you can do that super easily. So it's a handy little piece of kit, something that I plan on having just in a drawer somewhere. It's just really handy for those situations where you're sitting there going, I need to send audio somewhere. And this can sit anywhere on the network as long as it's on the right VLAN, boom, you're good to go. Now at number 8, we have the 12G SDI to Quad SDI adapter. Now this is a bit of a odd adapter, but I'll explain to you what my plan with this is. So the A10 Constellation has 4 up to 4K, actually up to 8K, but it has 4 4K multi-view outputs on the switcher. So even if you're running your switch in HD, you can still output your multi-views at 4K. So my plan with this is one of my multi-views, say multi-view 4, I'm going to set this up as a 16-way multi-view. So you got 4x4 boxes. Now what this can do is this can chop it into 4. So you've got top left, which will have 4 boxes, top right, which will have 4 boxes, bottom left, bottom right, 4 boxes, and 4 boxes. So this actually gives me 7 multi-view outputs out of the switcher once I go through this. Now obviously they're going to be HD, but my main plan with this is we have 2 CCU positions. Now they've got a SmartView 4K as their main reference monitor, and they have a Smart Scope 4K, sorry, a Smart Scope Duo below that, which has 2 monitors. Now, one of them I'm going to have as RGB Parade, and the other one I'm going to have set to video with one of the feeds from here. The idea being that they can control up to 4 cameras. So they can see those 4 cameras on their screen below the multi-view, which will also have tally showing on that as well. So they can look down, look at all their cameras, and then on the CCU panel in themselves, they can actually select which camera is going live. So this is actually a really handy little adapter for especially those doing 4K 4K multi-views to be able to chop that into multiple feeds. Now my plan is, we're still confirming this at the moment, is to actually get the 8K converter and use an 8K TV as our main multi-view. So in the trailer we'll have a 65-inch 8K screen, which can then send 4 multi-view feeds to it, or it can send a full screen. The idea being that a quarter of the image will actually be a full 4K image, and then if you have 16 boxes there, they're all HD, each of those boxes, so that if you, even though you're sitting really close, you're actually getting typically a HD or an SD signal regardless of the size of the box, which is really cool. Now at number 9, you guys know I love my Stream Decks. I could not do a build without a Stream Deck and running Companion. So I've got about 5 or 6 of these guys, which are going to be sitting around the trailer and run on Companion. Super handy, super flexible, you can do whatever you want. The other plan I'm planning on doing is actually running little Raspberry Pis, which will run 1 or 2 of these, but then send USB data over the network to a central Raspberry Pi or Mac Mini, so still yet to decide, which will actually run the main instance of Companion. So the idea being that we don't have multiple Companion instances for all these different stations running Stream Decks, because ATEMs, for example, can only support between 5 to 8 connections. So I'm trying to keep the connections low so that we can still have hardware plugged into that. But we're using USB over the network to a central server, which will then do all the actual hard work. So that's my plan with the Stream Deck XL. Now number 10, last but not least, one of my favorite little converters is the Blackmagic Mini Converter SDI to HDMI 6G. Now these things are really powerful. They obviously do a SDI to HDMI converter, but what is a few little features that you might not know of is that they do actually have LUTs built into them. So you can build in a LUT. So one example that I'll do for that is I'll have a TV on set, which I'm actually filming, and that if my lighting is in tungsten, for example, I can put a CTO LUT on this thing, which actually turn the daylight of the TV into tungsten. Or I can set up a custom LUT for the TV that I've got this bolted onto, and that is ready to go at all times. So the final thing, which is the main reason why I have these, is that the HDMI output will do a down conversion from from 4K to HD if the TV does not support a 4K signal. So when it connects, it'll do a handshake and go, hey, what resolution can you support? The TV goes HD, this will go, great, cool, I will give you a HD signal even though you've actually got a 4K signal going into it. So going to have a bunch of these handy, so if you want to plug into any TV in any venue you're at, this will automatically change that. Now what it won't do is it'll change the resolution, but it won't change the frame rate. So you may have some more specifically some monitors. So if you plug into a monitor, a lot of monitors only will accept 60 frames, and if you're sending 30 or 25 or 24, it might not like it. So keep that in mind. It won't do a frame rate conversion. It will just do a resolution conversion. So if you're sending 4K 30 to a monitor, it may not work. It may work. Every monitor is different. So it's not a one size fixes all, but if you're plugging into a TV, chances are you'll be able to get a picture regardless of the signal going into it. So there we have it. Those are my top 10 items from the OB trailer build that I am currently doing. So I hope you learned something. I hope there's a few little nuggets of information that you may find handy for your own build. And if you're in Australia and you want to build something, or you want to buy any of the items that you've seen here, hit me up in the link below at Tiny Giants AV. I'll be happy to chat with you and get you a good deal on any of these items. I've also got some affiliate links to some of the items below. Appreciate that if you are looking to buy anything. But if you're also looking for some consulting, if you're looking to do a build of any size, from large to small, and you're looking for some advice, please hit me up at the website below. I would love to have a chat and see how we can help you. Because a lot can be done even just over a Zoom call in terms of helping with designs and ideas. So I hope that helped. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you liked this video. It helps me out a lot. And I will see you on the next one. Cheers.